Welcome back to Rome Boys. On this episode, we've got Steve Ray in the house.
In the house.
Out in the country.
Yes.
Yeah, in the farmhouse.
Well, when you pulled up last night, you spoke to our cluster parishes last night, and great talk. I mean, it was awesome. The turnout, everybody was there. I mean, it was just a great time. But the first thing you said as soon as you got out of the car was, "You guys live in the middle of nowhere."
Yeah, and even coming here, I was on the phone with you, and you're telling me go past the stop sign and then turn right when you find the first dead skunk on the road. Turn left, and then you'll see 6 cows in the field, and you're getting close.
You're almost there.
You're almost there. Waving at you.
Yeah.
Look for the Catholic Church on the hill.
Yeah, none of what you said is a lie. That's true.
Nope.
All of that is true.
No, you guys really do live way, way, way out here, and it's delightful. What a great way to raise a
It
family.
is. It's a blessing. Yeah.
Tony actually quoted someone a long time ago, and I can't remember the source except for Tony, and that is there were more saints created in rural parts of the world.
Like 70%.
Yeah.
From the rural
I had
side
lunch
of the
with
world.
one today, actually. Monsignor Droll.
Okay. Yeah.
I did. He was from Rowena. He was telling
Yes,
me his
he
story of
was.
growing up there. And
Yes.
I was raised in the country, too, on a little farm, so I feel like right at home
There's
with
hope
you
for all of
guys
us. Woohoo!
Yeah. We,
Plus, these saints, most saints come out of rural areas, and then most times when Mary appears to somebody, it's usually they're not very intelligent.
Or usually it's the females that are the more the saints than males. So it's like, oh, wait.
Well,
That's not surprising.
There's an interesting thing about that with who the Mary appears to. She was only 15 years old, and she lived way out off the main road in a
you go.
small, unknown village.
Yeah.
And an angel came to speak to her when she was 15. I think she feels much more comfortable with young, innocent people.
Of course.
And look at who she's come to in Fatima and
right.
Lourdes and all these different places, and Guadalupe, too.
You're
She
right.
goes to the
It's
simple
way out
people.
there now. You know better than I. I've only been there once. You've
Yeah.
been there how many times?
Where's that?
Literally where Mary was, grew up. And
I've been to Nazareth 200 times. Yep. And I still get goosebumps and the hair goes up when I'm in front of that cave where she lived.
Yes.
And I tell people that's where Mary lived, right here. And this is where the angel met her. And and when she said yes, this is where the Word became flesh. It didn't happen in Bethlehem. It happened here. And that's why on the altar it says in Latin, the Word became flesh here.
Oh.
And if you don't get, and that's where the first words of the Rosary are spoken. Hail.
All right.
It didn't say Mary. It said, hail full of grace. Kahare tomene is a Greek word, but
She was the only one in the room, so it was referring to her.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that might be why she feels so comfortable coming to young children and simple people, because she herself is a very simple person in a way.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, it's awesome to have you here.
Well, thank you. Glad to be
Thanks
here.
for making the trip.
Glad to be
Yeah.
here. When I got invited to come to Denton to give talks there, and then you guys called and said, "Hey, as long as you're out there, we're just a hop, skip, and a jump away."
Yeah.
It's like
Hop,
four-
Little did you know.
skip, jump,
So I
jump.
said, "Yeah,
jump.
let's do it. That'll be fun." So I've enjoyed being here.
Three hours of jumping, and you made it here. Yeah.
Well, last night after you gave the talk, and you did a great job, I must say, is you kind of pulled a little moisture out of my eye, and out here in dry West Texas. But
Mr. Convert here.
yeah, I'm a convert as well, and I will tell you that there were many people last night and this morning actually texting me about your talk and about the impact that you've had. So it's awesome to see. There was a bunch of people in the room that are actually becoming converts.
Yeah.
And so to hear your story, I think is a great impact. I want to ask you though, now that you're not in front of a couple hundred people, and we got you all to ourselves, you were Baptist,
Yes.
raised in a great home. Can you go back to that? I don't know if it's the moment of metanoia or that moment that you had where you said you went out and you had long hair and bell-bottom
did.
pants and.
I was 17 years old, and I graduated from high school in 1973, so I was right in the middle of that whole cultural change with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and all of the Woodstock. I didn't go there, but my best friend went to Woodstock. All that craziness, I was in the middle of it. I had long hair down on my shoulders, bell-bottom blue jeans. I was a rebel. I had decided I wasn't going to be a Christian 2 years earlier when I was 15 because the Christian kids I knew weren't cool, and I found a whole new group of friends that were. But like Paul says, bad company corrupts good morals, which is why it's great homeschooling your kids, because you have some control over who they spend their time with. And I remember Billy Graham came on radio or television. I don't remember which it was, and I just got hit. Boy, the Lord just hit me that day. And when I heard Billy Graham, I always had a soft spot for the Lord in my life. And when I heard him say that God has a plan for your life, and he just had such a wonderful way of preaching that it just drew you in. My mother in 1953 became a Christian because of Billy Graham, hearing him, and her and my dad. So when I was 17, my mom was smart. She had the Christian radio on all the time. She used to say, my kids will catch it even if it's by osmosis.
Sure. Absolutely.
And sure enough, that night, Billy Graham was on, and George Beverly Shea sang, "Just as I am, without one plea." Oh, that got me, and I ran out. Didn't want my mom and dad to see me affected by Billy Graham.
Yeah.
And I walked down Napier Road in Canton, Michigan, out in the country, and I just said, "Jesus, tonight I'm giving my whole life to you." And that was the most important moment of my life. Everything goes back to that moment, and it was the trajectory. Where you shoot a rocket, it has a certain trajectory, and that was set the trajectory for my life. And here I am, I'm almost 70, so what was that, 57, 53 years later? Here I am, still on that trajectory.
How can we replicate that? I mean, everybody's story is personal, of course, but many Catholics, they know the doctrine, they know the catechesis, they know teaching, but they know about Jesus, but you encountered Jesus, our Lord and Savior. How can we bring that about, make that a focus and emphasis?
I think exactly what you guys are doing, because you can plant the seed and you can set the stage, but you can't crawl inside the person. You know, so you plant the seed. You guys are doing this. How many people? You have no idea. Maybe the number of people that you're affecting in the same way, or with your own kids. Your own kids are the most important mission field. Forget Rome Boys.
Yeah, you're right. Sure, absolutely.
If it's a choice between raising your kids right and making sure they're right, or spending your time doing this. Quit the Rome Boys and take care of your kids. Now, you're doing both. That's wonderful. I mean, but you know my point.
Yes.
Is that your family is your first mission field.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And the kids will, I think that I was able to have that experience because I saw the reality of it in my mom and dad. And I saw my dad and mom really love Jesus, and they were serious about it. And yeah, they fought once in a while, and they weren't perfect, but there was always that great love of Jesus and pride of being a Christian. And so that affected us, you know, and my three brothers are all the same. One of them has become Catholic. The other one is just a good evangelical. But it was living in that family, and then hearing Billy Graham. So I think raising kids that way, giving them that environment, and being real yourselves.
Yes.
Not being fake for 1 minute, being real. Be totally honest with the kids about things. And if the priest is long-winded, and I mean, I remember saying, man, that pastor was sure long-winded, didn't have anything to say today. And the kids would say, Dad, you're right. They appreciated I was honest with them.
Yeah.
And then when I talked to them about other things, they knew I was being honest with them. You know?
That's a great point.
And it was just a way of being real with the kids and using every experience for teaching moments. I remember when we were coming home, and my daughter, my oldest one, who's now a PhD in philosophy, and we were coming home late one night because we lived out in the country when I raised the kids. Because we homeschooled, we had to live in the country because it was illegal in Michigan to homeschool.
It's hard to believe.
They could have put us in jail and taken our kids and put them in foster homes for educational neglect. We were pioneers of this.
Wow.
And one day we moved out in the country, bought an old farmhouse, and disappeared for 5 years until it became legal. But we came home one night at late, and there was a car parked in the corn, you know, the 2-track out to the cornfield. And I saw that car, and I knew what was going on in that car because I was a rebellious teenager once, you know. And so my daughter and me in the car, it's dark, and so I said, this is a great teaching moment for mine. So I pulled up behind the car, and I put on the bright lights, and there's 2 bare butts in the back window.
Oh, my goodness.
In the station wagon. So I just left the lights on, and I went, beep! And you watch those 2 kids get dressed in the back of that car real fast with the back window all steamed up.
Oh, my.
And then my daughter says, what are you doing, Dad? What are they doing, Dad? And she was about 7 years old. So I backed out, and I let them go. I said, we'll talk about it in the morning because it's late. But I said, I want you to think about it between now and then. So we got up the next morning. And she came down very thoughtful, and she said, Dad, I think I know what they were doing in the car. I said, what were they doing? She said, Dad, we have chickens and rabbits and goats, and I know what they do. And then babies come.
Wow.
Oh, and I said, you're right.
At that age.
And I said, now let me ask you this question. Do you think that girl feels like a princess this morning? Do you think she feels special? No. She was embarrassed by the whole thing. I said, why would she let a boy do that? Probably because she doesn't have a father who loves her and is a good example. And she feels that because she doesn't have a dad who loves and approves her, she has to go find a boy to do that, a male figure. And he said, oh, if you really love me, you'll let me do this. And she says, well, I do. And I said, now what if she's gotten gonorrhea or syphilis? Do you think if he had that, he's warned her ahead of time? And what if she gets AIDS now because of that? And even worse, what if she's pregnant now? Is that boy going to take care of that baby? Or what's? And my daughter saying, Dad, she was just, that rocked her world thinking about that. And so then I always talked to her about those things. So later on, when she got older, her friends tried to, even though they were good Christian friends, they still tried to entice her to do things. And she said, my dad told me all about that. I will never do that. So she said that the very fact that I was honest with her about all those things, even from a young age, she said that was so impactful to me that she said that's why I never did any of those things the other kids did.
Especially from a father to a daughter.
A father to a daughter.
At least what I have found. Like my sons are a little bit more challenging. They want to be a little bit more adventurous, rebellious. But the daughters are like totally listening. Like it's just.
It was the opposite in our family. Our son was totally compliant and easy to do, and our daughters were stubborn. And I used to. Two of them especially. I had to be on my toes, and I tell them, "You're never going to beat me. You're never going to beat me. I love you too much to let you get away with anything." And now they are grateful.
That's awesome.
I would say that our father-in-law, we share a mutual father-in-law, Tony and I, and he was all, the week that we were getting married, my wife and I was riding in the car with Steve, my father-in-law, and I asked him, it was just him and me, and we were on our way to go fishing. And I said, you raised two really good kids, two really good daughters. How in the world did you do it? Without hesitation, he said, I didn't give them an inch.
That's right. That's right.
And he talked about everything. I mean, he's real about everything. And
that's exactly right. You give them their parameters, and then you don't bend. You have to be consistent with it, and you have to be disciplined about it. And that's just the way. And our girls, they're very beautiful girls, and there's always boys interested in them, and they couldn't date until they were 18. That was just a rule that we had. And because it's not a recreational thing where you go out to driving around at night with some boy. And I said, and when a boy does want to be your friend, even before 18, and wants to be with you at school or come to your house with you or whatever, I said, that's fine, but I want to meet him first.
Sure.
So every guy had to come and sit down in our living room with our family and my son, and he had to talk to me. And I said, I hear that you, nice to have you here. I said, I hear you like my daughter. He said, yes, sir, I do. I said, good, now you're accountable to me. And I said, we've raised her. Exactly. Right. We've raised her. We've spent a lot of time on her. I've spent a lot of money on this girl. And she's very special to us. And if you think in any way you're going to mess around with my daughter, you got another thing coming. And if you ever do, I'll break both your legs. It was called the broken leg speech. It became famous for that. Nice. And so my daughters would say, Dad, are you going to give this guy the broken knee speech? I said, I certainly. Then came along my one daughter, her husband, she met him on an airplane. He was in a Army uniform. He was in the Air Force, and he was going to Iraq. And they met for 2 hours on a plane, and they shared email addresses. And she said later, she was thinking, that's the most handsome man I've ever seen, and he was saying it's the most beautiful. They sat next to each other on the plane, and they communicated by emails from the whole time he was in Iraq, and they fell in love by email. And when he came home, he wanted to meet us. And he wanted to marry her. And I said, yes. And she said, Dad, you're not going to give him the broken knee speech. He just got out of the Army. I said, I know, but I am. So I called him down one day and I said, Wes, we're going to do the broken knee speech. I said, here's what I tell every young man that's interested in my daughters. And I said, and I will break your legs. And I said, I know you're bigger than me and you're military, but I'll get you from behind. But he liked it that I did that.
Yeah.
And I also said, when you marry my daughter, it's for a lifetime. Yeah. Don't ever even think of coming to me and saying you don't love my daughter anymore. Because I said, you have me to deal with then too. And believe me, I will not take that well.
My dad used to say, a young man will fight you, old man will hurt you.
See, that's why I like the Rome Boys' whole attitude, because I'm right with you guys.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. And from that same parenting, I mean, Melissa was a virgin when we married, and she was, she is just an awesome person. And so it's awesome for us to be able to share that with our 6 daughters. That legacy can go on.
That's right. My son, when he was younger, we had all these talks with him too, and he made a club with 5 guys in our parish, and they formed a club that they were going to be virgins and marry virgins. That's and they were going to help each other protect their eyes. Awesome. They to hold each other accountable. Now, there's 16-year-old boys, Right. And that they're going to hold each other accountable to about pornography and all those things. And they had this thing called a babe alert. Yeah. And people think what? But whenever they were somewhere and a girl came by with not many clothes on, they go, babe alert, and they'd all look away. So that they wouldn't let their eyes, like Job said, my eyes will not dwell upon a maiden. In a wrong way. So now those guys are all married with kids, and they're still friends, these guys.
Yeah, I have a devout Muslim friend, traditional Muslim friend, Mubashir. He's a great guy. We were having these conversations. We had dialogue about, scripture and, ancient history and so forth. One of the things that we talked about was, he said in their culture, they say, you better make that first look count, which is the opposite of because you look back second time, it's a sinful thing. Or that first glance is what he said.
We always say, like, where is it at? 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock? And no, where's he in the positioning? Okay, I'll go this way.
But this is so important, how parents raise their kids, and parents that look at their careers as what their purpose in life is, to make money, have missed the whole boat. Success. My wife and I say that success is when we're 85 years old and we're on the porch swing rocking with our walkers next to us, and we look at all our grandkids out there and all of them and say, this is what life was all about. It's not about careers are important. You got to go out and make money. But people ask me all through my life, well, what are you? They expected I was going to say I've had businesses. I used to run a business with 600 employees, and I sold it so I could do this. And they'd say, well, what are you? And I'd say, I'm a Christian. Well, I don't mean what religion are you? I mean, what are you? Oh, what do I do to make a living? That's not who I am.
That's great.
Good point.
I make a living at this, but I am this. I am, first of all, a Christian. Second of all, a husband and a father. And third of all, a businessman. But that comes
in that order.
Exactly.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I often say that my job, my career, my business is just a vessel. It's an opportunity for me to share who I am.
Exactly.
And the world needs those examples, right?
And you'll retire someday and walk away from that, and it'll be gone. But your kids won't.
Yeah, so true.
You don't retire from kids.
Most of the time, whenever somebody asks that question, what do you do? Chasing kids. That's all we do is chase kids. I don't know about anything else we do.
Especially
chase
your kids, your boys. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, where did he go? He's on the roof.